Hello everybody, and thank you for visiting my post for this week. For this week's discussion, I picked question number 3 to answer out of the Snow book. The first question under question number 3 is, how has warfare changed? Face-to-face combat has become a norm of the past, used during the War of 1812, the Civil War, and even in World Wars I and World War II. Other ways warfare has changed is the rules of engagement, the decrease of civilian casualties. For instance, in the bombing during World War II, the bombing of Japan, there was an increase of civilian casualties because the atomic bombs dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Also, the German attack on London caused a huge increase in civilian casualties during that time. So therefore, during these wars, there has been a decrease in civilian casualties. Also, previous wars, your enemy was clearly defined by uniform, markings, or territory. In recent wars, the enemy is clearly not always known and hard to identify. For instance, in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the Taliban are clearly not marked by any specific things that they are wearing or by military outfits or uniforms. What is asymmetrical warfare? Asymmetrical warfare is, quote, the situation in which both or all sides do not accept or practice the same methods of warfare, end quote, as well as, quote, reject the rules of war favored by their opponents, end quote. Therefore, asymmetrical warfare is when one entity or more than one entity or military does not use the same tactics as another organization. For instance, in the wars in Iraq, our military uses their same conventional ways of war that they've used for centuries, and the Taliban and insurgents use tactics such as suicide bombings, IEDs, and various other ways of war that our military would not conventionally use. Other examples of asymmetrical warfare are, during the American Revolution, the militia established ambushes to attack foreign forces. And 2, in Vietnam, ambushes were used by the Viet Cong in the jungle, as well as guerrilla warfare was used by the Vietnamese. Next question under question number 3. Why has it become the dominant form of violence the U.S. faces? Warfare is always changing as technology advances, as well as the type of enemy we are fighting against. For instance, once again, in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, we're not fighting against a certain country. We're fighting against a group or an organization. Also, some countries do not have a standing army. For instance, the Taliban is not a standing army. Some countries lack the backing of a centralized government to provide adequate funding and equipment, which proves to be very beneficial to an army in a wartime. Our textbook author states, quote, what is now called asymmetrical warfare is the approach of a weaker foe trying to overcome the advantage of a force that is superior in whatever, end quote. Therefore, our textbook author explains that many people use asymmetrical warfare because they are not as strong enough as the organization that or the military that they are fighting against. Therefore, they try to use other tactics to undermine the efforts of their enemy because they feel they cannot conventionally fight against them in order to win the battle or the war. And last question under question number 3, how does Iraq reinforce this change? Iraq started out as a symmetrical warfare. When we went in under the Bush administration, we defeated them in 3 days, which is the Iraq army. But after those 3 days, the war was not over, and it quickly turned to asymmetrical warfare because of insurgents and also Saddam loyalists. So therefore, Iraq has become an asymmetrical warfare because of the unconventional tactics used, the different rules of engagement, and once again, we moved from fighting the military of Iraq after 3 days to fighting insurgents and the Saddam loyalists. And this is all I have for you tonight, so thank you for once again stopping by and visiting my post, and I can't wait to hear your feedback and questions. Thank you so much.